Hey guys, and welcome to an Armoured Warfare video. So it's been a year since Armoured Warfare came out, and as a result of that, the two founders tanks, the BMPT Terminator and the Expeditionary tank, are back on up for sale once again, this time with kick-ass new skins as part of the Reaper pack. The Merc pack is also back once again, but the focus of the video is the Reapers. Now the Reaper pack is going to send you back 6,500 gold, or roughly €25 worth, and you can't buy either of the two vehicles separately. That is something I have praised them on in the past, but I'm not sure why the trend isn't continuing with these two, especially since all the Mercs can be bought individually. However, they have done something with this pack which is amazing. It's a huge thank you from the devs to the founders, and that is if you own the original two vehicles and play 5 games of either PvP or PvE between the 21st of November and the 14th of December, you will receive both Reaper tanks absolutely free. It's an incredible offer and a huge thank you to their founders. But what do you get from the actual vehicles? Let's have a quick look at them. The first one I'm going to check out is the BMPT Terminator Reaper. Back in the days where the Soviet Union was fighting in areas like Chechnya, very built up areas, it was becoming obvious the light armour of the BMP series and the limited gun handling of the main battle tanks was becoming a hindrance in those close quarter engagements. The need for a heavily armoured troop support vehicle was needed. Several prototypes were made, including the version we're looking at today in Armoured Warfare as the Tier 6, and the Tier 8 Ramka, which was the final version that was revealed to the public. However, neither version actually entered service with Russia, although some were exported overseas based on a converted T-72 chassis rather than the T-90 they were meant to be, and became known as the BMPT T-72, and that went into service in Kazakhstan. In Armoured Warfare, however, they appear as a Tier 6 armoured fighting vehicle. However, that's about as close as this comes to playing like a traditional AFV. The view range of 425, which, while a good bit better than the same tier main battle tanks, is worse even than the Stingray. Its camo, again, is worse than the light tank, the Stingray, but that's not what this thing is for. With the hull of the vehicle based on the tier 8 main battle tank, the T-90, you can see it's not supposed to be a super stealthy vehicle, sat back out of the action sniping away. It's designed to be right up in the thick of it, messing things up with its main armament. Talking of that main armament, what does it come with? Well, it comes with a twin 30mm alternating cannon, firing 2 types of ammo. You've got armor piercing or high explosive incendiary ammo. The armor piercing, that comes with 120 penetration and 45 damage per shot, and you've got a 40 round salvo. It means that if you pen every single shot, you can push out a rather monstrous 1,800 damage before you need to reload, and that's before taking its 4 ATGM launchers mounted on the turret into account. Each of these missiles has 668mm of penetration and does an average damage of 515 per shot. There is a small delay of 4 seconds between each missile, so it's going to take you 12 seconds to get all 4 missiles away. That's an additional 2,000 damage from the missiles to add to the 1,800 from earlier, so theoretically you could put out a massive 3,800 damage before needing to reload entirely. But this is the thing, the autocannon takes 9 seconds to reload, and the missiles 24 seconds. So if you lead off with your autocannon, you run out of the autocannon, switch to the missiles, use all of them, by the time you fired off all your missiles, your cannon should be back up again. Although there is going to be delay when you don't have any weapons active if you do it that way on the second reload of the cannon. So as you can see, the Terminator really is for getting up in their face and laying down the hurt with some really insane burst damage. But where would that burst damage be without the armor to do it? Well, the Terminator isn't short on that either. With it being based on the chassis of the T-90 main battle tank, it comes with some serious armor. 422mm of effective armor on the front of the hull will bounce even the strongest of main battle tank guns. Even the sides with 281mm of effective armor, that's going to cause problems for many same tiered vehicles. It even comes with ERA on the front of the upper hull of the vehicle to give it a bit more protection against ATGMs and heat shells. Like any Russian main battle tank hull, it comes with some of the same weak spots. The lower plate, for example. This is a weak spot on just about every Russian vehicle. And you also have the ring around the bottom of the turret that is full damage shot. And just about everywhere on the turret is a half damage shot. Just beware, the turret can be notoriously trolly, and if you bounce off things that look like you should never bounce off in a million years. But it's almost guaranteed damage if you can't pen anything else. Especially if you're coming up against other Terminators. If 2 Terminators are shooting each other, for the most part they're going to go for each other's turrets since they will pen more often than not. But these are the stats of the vehicle. What do I actually think of it? Well, I love the Terminator. I think it's an absolutely fantastic vehicle. At its tier, it is ridiculously deadly. If you get into a match in this thing as top tier, expect to carry the team. I've spoken about this in previous videos that I am a very aggressive player in Armoured Warfare to the extent where standard AFVs are too squishy for me to do anything well with. However, the fantastic armour, the fantastic firepower, this thing can lead the way and provide excellent supporting fire on any flank. Like the Starship I checked out last time, I called it a force multiplier, and a Terminator is exactly that kind of deal. Whether it's smashing missiles into lower plates of main battle tanks, or putting them straight through their driver's hatch, or absolutely shredding light-skinned vehicles in seconds, the Terminator is geared up for any occasion. There are very few tanks that capture the fun of charging an enemy, autocannons blazing away, missiles flying since the Terminator can fire the missiles on the move as well. When fighting these though, just aim for the ring below the turret. It's very easy to hit since it's a pretty large target and you're going to do full damage. If you remain calm and aim for those weak spots, it's not actually that hard to take one of these down because they don't have a huge amount of hit points. But if you have one of these roll up on you unannounced, unnoticed, then prepare for some serious hurt to be put on you, especially if you roll into a platoon of them at once. It's an incredible tank and one that I find a huge amount of fun to play. The second of the two is the Expeditionary tank. Now there's not a lot of history with this vehicle I could find, only that it was an entry into the Armoured Gun Systems competition in the 80s, which is designed to replace the M551 Sheridan in the 82nd Airborne as a light support tank. There was a prototype built and was tested by the US Army, however it eventually lost the competition to the M8 and never entered service. Although the turret was designed for the Expeditionary tank, that did actually go on to be used on the M1128 mobile gun system. But how does it stack up in Armoured Warfare? Well, it comes in as a tier 6 light tank and is actually very similar in stats to other light tanks of its tier, unlike the Terminator. Decent camera rating allows it to engage from range without being seen. It's slightly better than the Stingray in that regard, however its view range is only 385 meters. That's only 15 more than the tier 6 main battle tank, the T-72A, and is 15 meters less than the Stingray. So it's not going to be outspotting anything other really than main battle tanks, and even that's a pretty close run deal, to be honest. Normally here I would talk about the armor of the vehicle. However, like most light tanks, you can sneeze at the hull of this thing and penetrate it with autocannon or not. So there really isn't a lot to talk about here. Although the gun is a spot where you will only do half damage. So if your shot goes high, hits the turret, or the turret is the only thing that's showing, then you aren't going to do full damage. However, with pretty damn decent maneuverability, you've got 0 to 32 km an hour, 2.74 seconds, goes on to a top speed of just under 80 km an hour. This thing does have some very nice flanking potential to where it can start to put its 105mm gun to work. Now talking of that 105, it's an okay gun that performs reasonably well. While it might not have the best penetration of just 303mm, that's only 3mm compared to a tier 5 Chieftain, and that isn't even known for having a particularly good gun, and doing significantly less damage than that Chieftain of 339 compared to 400. It is pretty accurate. It aims fairly quickly, you've got 2.38 seconds, and then fires a shell just under every 6 seconds. So the damage output of this thing, if you can use your speed and okay camo to get to a good sniping spot, you can put fire into their soft targets or into the sides of main battle tanks, and that damage output is actually pretty damn high. Its gun depression of -12 degrees is pretty amazing, however it's got some really poor gun elevation. That does really hurt it if you're trying to operate on some of the mounds, especially around the first point in Global Ops for example. So knowing the limitations of the gun is going to be important if you want to get the best out of it. Now, to be honest, I'm not a big fan of the light tanks myself. I said this when I checked out the Stingray. I find myself being way too aggressive in it and I can't really use it effectively. The turret transversal is pretty slow, so circling targets isn't the easiest, and it definitely doesn't have the armor to be able to stand up to any fire at all. However, even then, I still seem to manage to do fairly well in it. Chuck a couple of retrofits on there. I've got augmented optics combined with the vision range increase from Sabrina right now to try and extend that vision range. combined with Chrome Barrel for a bit more damage as well as some accuracy, and then Intercom to bring up the crew stats a bit more. It brings down the reload, it brings down the aim time even. A lot of the downsides of the vehicle you can work around with the use of the right commander as well as some retrofits. I think it's a fairly decent little vehicle. It's not the easiest to play, but played well, I've seen these things do some awesome things. Now, one trick to think about is if you have the chance to reverse out to get the shot, I have found that to be the best way. The gun is at the back of the vehicle, so backing up means you bring the gun into play way quicker. It takes some getting used to, but it's not bad when you do. But honestly, I just can't seem to make this vehicle really work for me that easily. All in all, I think it's a pretty decent pack. The Terminator is an incredible vehicle and one hell of a moneymaker. If you are decent with vehicles like the Stingray or the IDF-LT, then I think you will enjoy the Expeditionary tank as well. And if you get a founder, you can get both of them for free, which is awesome. You can have 2 versions of them, you got all the doubles, the daily doubles, and you can make a ton of money in XP with them. So I hope you enjoyed my rundown of these 2 vehicles. If you've got any suggestions for future videos or how I can improve these, let me know in the comments below. Also let me know if you're planning on picking this back up at all. I'd be very interested to know. As always though, feel free to smash that like button to sub if you like my content, and I shall see you in the next video.